Welcome to Promo Insiders, the ASI media podcast that tackles the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry, from fun trends to hard-hitting news and analysis. I'm Theresa Hegel, and with me today is my colleague, John Corrigan. So one of the biggest issues facing the promo industry, and really all industries in 2020, was the overabundance of paid time off. Obviously, we all needed an escape in 2020, but there were lockdowns, travel restrictions, there was really nowhere to go. And then even, employees that, had plenty of PTO, sometimes were not encouraged to use it because of, staffing cuts and things like that. So where did all that PTO go? And for those that were able to get away from work, how did they spend their time? So John, he wrote a really good story for Counselor, and it's going to be available on asicentral.com soon. And it's all about evaluating how the promo industry handled PTO. John, what did you find?
There were a lot of days left on the table, and it's been a big issue, Theresa. It's really been crazy. We did some research at ASI. 47% of promo professionals used less PTO in 2020 than they did in 2019.
Wow.
Only 16% used more, which, as you said, is crazy, because if there was ever a time that we needed to escape, it was last year.
Oh, yeah.
But people didn't do it, and there were just for a variety of reasons. I know even with us in our department, all towards, right towards the end of the year, there was this big crunch of we want to use our PTO, but you have to kind of figure out scheduling and staffing. I tried to use all my PTO, and I planned, a couple weeks in the year. I tried to take off every Friday towards the end of the year. I still had a day left.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and it was, at a certain point you run out of time. You're like, well, I can't take it.
Right. I think I used all of my PTO.
Good.
I usually get to the end of the year, and then there's a little bit of days that accrue. So I'm like, I think I'm either right on the edge or maybe have like one day left. But
yeah,
I try to schedule things around like when my daughter has holidays and things like that, so I can spend the day with her. Yeah. It's just that I forget to look at the school calendar, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, President's Day, crap. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if we had off President's Day, it would be different,
Right.
But
right. I forget about all those kind of minuscule little holidays that are off for schools, but like, the rest of the world still has to go to work. But
well, everybody went to work last year, apparently, every day. It didn't matter if they were sick. It didn't matter what was going on in their lives. And it's not good.
Yeah. Well, and I think you made a good point about everybody went in when they were sick. Part of it, I think, is remote work. It's harder to justify if you have a little case of like the sniffles or something. You can be in your bed and like do your work. So why take a PTO day to be sick?
Exactly. And the funny thing about that is, if you think about it, whenever we all do go back to the office, if we ever do, when somebody has the sniffles, we're all going to tell them you should stay home. There's going to be this kind of fear where, nobody knows what you have. Nobody wants to risk it.
I think that's probably a good thing if they do stay home. I wish people had done that in the past too. Like you're not really being a hero going in sick. So now there's a reason to not do that. I mean, if you're well enough to work from home, that's one thing. But like, don't go in and make everyone else sick.
Yeah, I agree. And that hero like complex was definitely prevalent, especially in America. This isn't just that's the other thing. This isn't just a promo industry issue. For years before the pandemic, Americans left so much PTO on the table, thinking that for some reason or other they'll be seen, I guess, in a higher standard with their boss or the company, to not take off.
Yeah, I mean, we define ourselves by our jobs in this country. So if we do, more than everyone else, like maybe we feel like. And I mean, legitimately we're busy and there's a lot of work to get done. So it's not like denigrating people that are busy and are trying to get stuff done. But you also have to worry about getting burnt out, and then you're going to be less productive than if you had taken that time off.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are some of the reasons people gave for not taking PTO?
Well, travel restrictions was the big one. People that had vacations planned, they had to scrap them. Either they couldn't fly, maybe outside the country to somewhere where they didn't feel safe flying. And then even if they did go somewhere, there were restrictions of what you could do. Not everything was open. Let's say you stayed in a hotel somewhere. As soon as you left your hotel room, a mask was required. People didn't feel like they were relaxing. So, that was a big deal. We talked about people working from home. Obviously, there was no real need to escape the office when you're not even in the office. You're just home.
Right. The appeal of the staycation is kind of lost if
Yeah,
you're already staying home all the time.
absolutely. And then another big part, and this tended to happen more for smaller companies, was that they felt they couldn't take PTO. With so many jobs being lost last year and so many budgets being cut, their teams were smaller. There was more responsibility on everybody's plate. Even companies that had told people, you should take PTO, independently, the employees felt like they couldn't let their team down, or they,
Right.
So there was so much pressure, so much anxiety that people just said, not this year.
Well, and that's another good point for people that are employers and not employees, that it's one thing to tell your workers, like, yes, you should be taking PTO, but are you enabling them to? Do you have
Right.
things in place like redundancies or contingencies so that they can take their PTO and then the work still gets done? Because otherwise it's just lip service.
Right.
And one thing I just wanted to mention is anybody who's listening right now, we'd love to get your comments. Like, did you take your PTO? Did you feel like you couldn't? We'd love to hear like what you have to say. So please feel free to chime in with questions, comments in the chat, and we will address them as they come in. So as far as like in a regular year, like how much PTO do promo companies generally offer? And do you know whether it's how it stacks up against like the rest of the country?
I don't know exactly how it stacks up, but some of these numbers that I've seen, it looks good. It looks like we should start applying now because and it varies in our industry. It varies.
Okay.
So some top companies like Polyconcept or TSC Apparel, they currently allow rollover up to 40 hours.
Okay.
Which is what ASI allows currently. Then you've got companies like American Solutions for Business, a top 40 company. They allow 120 hours to be rolled over.
Oh,
Then
wow.
there's Sanmar, the largest supplier in the industry. Get ready for this. Allows 400 hours to be carried over.
What? How do you even accumulate that much vacation time? And what are you going to do with it?
But they also offer the option, which I do think, and we have a lot of meetings at ASI, and people bring this up every year. And I think this is something that most companies in the promo industry, if they can, should try and apply across the board. Sanmar offers the option for your employees to cash out up to 80 unused hours each year.
Okay.
So, that's a pretty good amount. You can carry over 400. You're left with what, 320 if you cash out the 80. I mean, that's a nice Christmas bonus, really.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, or you could take like, say you had a vacation or plan to do and couldn't do, cash out that time and then put it towards the next vacation when you can actually go somewhere.
Yeah.
So how for the people that did take PTO, how did they actually spend it last year?
A lot of outdoors, a lot of socially distanced activities, fishing, hiking, boating, anything really to just get some fresh air, get away from their laptop, try to spend time with their family. For instance, Linda Milano, president of CFB Promotional Products, she took her family to a private cottage in Maine, which I think is a nice little, little getaway. Not what they would typically do, but you have to do something.
Yeah.
Amy Serrano.
I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that myself. Just all those little like cottages and cabins they have at like state parks, like something where you don't have to be around anyone else, but you can look out the window and it's beautiful. Just get away from your own house. I haven't done it yet, but
could be this year.
Maybe.
This could be it. Because that's another thing. Everybody's talking about. Now that I've seen how much I didn't use last year, I'm going to make plans for this year. Well, we're already midway through February, and you got to book some of these things well in advance. So anybody listening that hasn't kind of thought about their vacation yet really should, because time's ticking away, and
Yeah, and I think there's even more of a demand probably pent up for people that had to cancel things last year. So if they pushed it to this year, then it's going to be even more of a scramble to try and get like the best places.
Absolutely.
But you were going to mention someone else, I think, and I cut you off.
Well, because I think it's a good story. I know, I'm sure you've known people that had to cancel or delay weddings last year.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Amy Serrano, director of marketing at Barker Specialty, she got engaged in January, thinking she was going to have this nice big wedding. COVID happens, obviously, but she still does it in
Mm-hmm.
September. They still had it. Now, the original honeymoon destination was Barcelona.
Okay, that's not happening.
So she and her husband rented a Jeep and took a
Mm-hmm.
road trip through Arizona.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. So, even that, I mean, she's not going to push her life back. She's still
Mm-hmm.
going to take her time. They came up with a plan B. They had a great time, still outdoors, still enjoying nature, still spending quality time. And I think that's what, I think that's inspiring. And I think more people should kind of look at that as an example of, listen, you have this time, and it's very important that you take PTO, because it so many different factors for that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's sometimes even just I find like the change of scenery, change of like the routine, even if it's just the change of scenery from like, my living room to my back porch or something,
Yeah.
it sparks new ideas. You know what I mean? You get stuck in these ruts. But then if
Yeah.
you go do something else, you're not really thinking about work, but something could like just pop in your head. You're like, oh, that's a great story idea. But I never would have thought of that if I was, just
Right.
stuck behind the computer all day, every day.
And in this industry, it's supposed to be creativity. It's supposed to
Mhm.
be innovation and everybody coming up with fresh ideas. You can't. I don't think it's possible to keep coming up with fresh ideas if you're stuck in a routine, doing the same thing, looking at the same thing. You have to come out there and be inspired, or something. Experiment with something. So yeah, I mean, taking PTO is so important. Taking a break. There are decades of studies that I didn't even know until I worked on this. Obviously, stress reduction. I mean, that just is a no-brainer. Heart disease prevention. People get better sleep.
Okay.
Newfound creativity, as we talked about. And in terms of, now, this might be a little, I don't want to say evil, but it sounds like it's a wrong idea. If for companies that are weary about encouraging PTO use,
Hmm.
there are decades of studies that prove taking time off increases productivity amongst your staff. So
Okay. Yeah. So it's a win-win for everybody, really, is what
absolutely.
you're saying.
Yeah.
And, another thing that's interesting is like, so, today, depending on where you are in the country, some things are more open than others. There's still some restrictions. So you might not be able to do the vacation that you had originally planned. But like Amy, the one you mentioned, like there's options, like be creative in what you do. You know what I mean? Like even if it's like a little weekend that you get away, just you know, take a road trip someplace close, or, find a cabin, or just, take a day trip and go on a hike somewhere. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can come up with different things that maybe you wouldn't do in a normal year, but it doesn't mean that it's, bad or not like a worthwhile use of your time.
And it could start a new tradition. Maybe
Right, right,
you do this every year from now on, or something
right.
else, or like I know, for instance, for Christmas, my brother's a junior in high school now. So for
Okay.
Christmas, I said, you can pick one college in the country, and we'll do a college tour sometime this year.
Okay.
So this whole time, but before we led up to this, he kept talking about Carolina.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, we can drive. It'll be easy. I don't got to worry about flying and all these issues.
Mm.
And then when he sees the gift, he says, we're going to UCLA. And, that kind of throws everything for a loop. But it's something that, the only reason like we really came up with this idea is because we had all this time last year, and there was, nothing really to do. So we're
Hmm.
trying something new. We're just trying something
Yeah,
new to use the days and make new memories, I guess.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't even have anything planned, and I haven't been out of this state since March last year.
Oh,
So
wow. I
gone
think
like
this March you got to go out of the state. One year
maybe,
out.
even if it's just Jersey.
Yeah, why not? Somewhere. Yeah.
Just like drive to the shore, turn around and drive back.
That's right. Well, I hope
Um,
that people at least what I found most fascinating, really, number one, is the different PTO that all these companies offer, which is always interesting. It's great for recruiting purposes. You're always curious to see how much time you get, how much time other people
mhm.
get. And
And
another
that's
thing
one of the things you can negotiate too.
right, exactly.
But if you don't use it, like this is your benefit. If you don't use it, you're kind of um, What do you mean, just Jersey? You know what I mean, Nate. It's just Jersey. You're lucky I didn't say anything worse than that. But yeah, I mean that it is your benefit, right? Like this is part of your compensation package. So you're only selling yourself short if you don't use it.
Yeah. And another thing I do want to mention to give some companies a shout out is some companies actually adjusted their PTO policy last year because of all this craziness,
Okay.
allowing a one-time exception, and which, of course, who knows, maybe they'll do that again this year, for employees to carry over more hours than usual. Halo increased the rollover amount from 40 hours to 80 hours as long as employees take those 40 hours by the end of Q1 this year. Um, Richardson, Texas-based MetroPack, a smaller supplier, they had an alternative for the 45 employees. You'll be paid for all of your unused PTO, or you can carry over 3 days worth as long as they take it before April 15th. So, these companies are at least trying to make it work for their employees. They kind of they see the value in taking time off. So it's really up to you. Like you said, it's your benefit. You have to make the most of it.
Yeah, I think, and like you said, there are just so many benefits that it's silly not to. I mean, I understand where people are coming from. I understand
Yeah,
that the motivation to, you want to, and especially when I think when things are tough, you want to kind of prove that you need to be, not need to be there. I mean, everyone's replaceable, but prove that you're a team player. I mean, I don't mean to be depressing, but everyone is replaceable. So,
yep. Yeah.
but I'm just saying, people want to prove that they're doing a good job. That don't fire me because I'm worthwhile. But I mean, it's just gonna things are gonna go badly if you don't take some time off, no matter
Exactly.
how hard you're working or trying to prove yourself. So.
Yeah, you got to think long term. I mean, that's what it's really all about. Sure, you work hard. Maybe for 6 months you don't take any time off. You work hard. You're going to be burnt out. Are you going to be good enough? For the future. Are you going to be good enough for the next year?
Yeah.
It's a risk. You got to think of it as a short term investment in yourself for the long term.
Oh, that's very nice. That could be the pool quote.
That could be. Well, I
All
thought it
right.
was. I thought it was going to be everyone can be replaceable. I thought we were going to
Well,
run that.
so that could be too, but maybe that's a little grim. I don't have to bring it down to like reality.
Yeah, I
Um,
gotcha.
anyway, but I think I think like this is a really important article. Like hopefully when you guys go on ASI Central, read the article. John did a really good job. There's a lot of good examples, and hopefully it'll inspire you to book your next vacation, staycation, just take a day off, do something. Use that PTO. Don't lose it.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, everyone.